Okay, I've got a question for everyone who ever clicks on this video, and I don't care what religion you're with in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so if you're not with one of the three major religions and with something else, or Shinto, or Hinduism, it doesn't matter. Islam, Christianity, whatever. Help me to understand this. Okay, I'm got to give you some background here, though. I can't just ask a simple, straightforward. I want to give you a little bit of background information as I go through this. I don't want to have people clicking off, or whatever about it either. I've got to give this background, and it's a little bit unnerving. And so I just want you to stick with me as I ask this question, and then maybe you can give me a valid answer because I've wrestled with a lot of it. And if you've looked at a lot of my videos, I've found a lot of truths. But this is one that I can't quite fathom. And I understand it, and I believe I know the answer in some way, but I want your take on it. And it is one of the most revealing question and answers possibly that someone could have towards religion, God, or anything. Um, it seems to me that a primitive people that were nomadic tent dwellers that didn't have civilization yet while there were cities all around them had found a God, and they kept straying away from this God, though. I mean, it's well attested that all the three major religions have it in there with Abraham and everything going on, that they always strayed. It's now been pretty much proven that Melchizedek was a Canaanite priest of El. El is the name of the god of the Canaanite area there, and the Romans called him Saturn, and um, the Greeks called him Kronos, and they equated their Saturn and Cronus together, if y'all remember Greek lit. Anyhow, so Melchizedek, so from Abraham's time on, and if you read Joshua 24:2, it talks about how Abraham left the land of his forefathers and all the people before then because they'd become idol worshippers. And strange, this isn't the question, but it just helps to add to the idea of the question, people, is that so the God of the flood, I mean, Noah had just died about 6 years before this happened. Supposedly, they chronologically figure out through the Midrash and things. But Noah had just died, and so all the people there don't even remember it, even though his kids are there and coming out of the boat and the rainbow and the whole nine yards. Somehow, everybody's drifted away, and there's way too many people on the planet for there to be anything. But let's just get away before I start going off on a Noah thing. But the whole Noah story that they have, and everybody has it in question, and you can't keep all those animals on there. That's not the question, but everybody goes with that topic. There's many things that are in question in the Bible. Many things. There's odd things in the Bible. I mean, in Ezekiel, if you look at it closely, where he talks about having to make him lay on his side, he ends up making him eat poop biscuits. Pastor, stay away from this. I've got a video on it. Look up Bible poop cult. It's weird, but believe it or not, that goes on. There's there's three or four mentions where this weird thing goes on. So that's a weird oddity. There's a lot of weird oddities in there, but this God of the Hebrews that they find, apparently, through all of this, is the one that directs them. Now, through my studies, I find that they keep flopping on God, which everybody knows in the Bible. Even if you just rudimentarily study a little bit or go to church a little, you know that they keep straying away from God and then come back. Well, it looks to me by my studies that they stay swayed more than they stay in line. And they also maybe perhaps are not being directed every one of these times by that same God that we think that it is. Okay? And it may be the other one that they're falsely worshiping during that time or everything. And people have tried to equate this and get out of it, and Hebrew scholars will tell you no. And it's all the same guy every time that tells you that. Okay, so we'll go with that premise then, and it's the premise that everybody believes in Christianity and Judaism and Islam and everything. So let's go with that premise. So these people used to worship the star of their god Remphan and stuff that it talks about in Exodus, if you know what I'm talking about, at Sinai. And that's, of course, been equated to Saturn, too. So that's El. They're doing worship of this god El. In fact, the name of God's council is called the Elohim, and that's the name in the Bible, too. So it's equatable. Look at the fact that they're angels. Their name are Gabriel, Raphael, Nathanael. They worship in a temple or chapel. It's evident. It's just rife. So what is El worship? And you find out that El had a son named Baal, and actually the Roman Greek god that we know of as Zeus was actually his son. He was the lightning god. His symbol was like a Z shape, and through their alphabet, that's Z. It looks like a lightning bolt, right? And so they put us on the end of everything in Greeks and Romans, and so he's Z, and it's Zeus. Like Neptunus is really Neptune, and Saturnus is really Saturn, and Cronus is really Cron. Anyhow, so let me get to my question here with looking at all of that. One more thing I have to put in there is what happens in this Canaanite God thing that's, if you look at it, is actually smothered the whole area. And we're led to believe that the Hebrew God was somebody other than that. Everybody else was worshiping this other God, tagging back and forth, and they kept going into slavery on them and had to do all these weird things and stuff like that. So, what does Baal worship entail, and what do they have going on? And then I'll ask my question, okay? So, let's look at Baal worship here. What they would do, and it's well documented, and I don't want to go through a lot of this because it's kind of, I don't know, it gets pretty bad. And kind of, whoop, there we go. Really? You gonna lock up on me? What have I done? Not closed a picture here? Okay, well, I'll change it to that one. She had a nice smile. Okay, Baal worship. Now, this is the Canaanite deity, and they said that he could cause rain and do all these types of things. And so there's a lot of picture of this, and everybody knows and stuff. Well, it has to do with the golden calf and bull worship, right? Okay. And so that's kind of what that was about, I guess, at Sinai when he comes down. And bull worship is Baal worship, as you see here. And so you see depictions of things like this. And so the Hebrews were worshiping this guy on and off and stuff, a little, I'm guessing that this is the God they were doing. This is what they show. They clearly show that the ancient Hebrews, that look like this, used to worship this guy. And we know what we think now today would this depicts, right? Right? Okay, so, but this is Baal worship that was going on at the time. Now, people just usually don't equate it, but that's what they were doing, okay? And the fires of Moloch and all these type of things that you hear about that they were doing, and you wonder what they were actually, what were they doing? And so let's look at this. Let me see if I can find a good picture here that'll let me in one picture show you the whole thing. That no, that's not going to blow up big enough, is it? And this one's probably not the complete picture. No. Let me find this for you, and then I'll ask my question. But as you can see there's these altars here, right? There's these altars here. Psalms talks about it. They served their idols and were snared by them. They sacrificed to demons their own sons and daughters, shedding innocent blood, the blood of their sons and daughters who they sacrificed the idols of Canaan. And what this was, it was they would throw their babies into fires. That behind this whole thing, this is a bronze type statue, and behind this whole thing, there's somebody building a fire, and it's bronze and lit all up, and the heat's all coming out of it, and they would sacrifice their kids. You hear old stories about people that would sacrifice their babies to a storm god trying to get it to rain and stuff, right? This is it. And so you see things like this little lady right here looking at this baby, and they're like, oh, you're next. This lady, too, is fixing to sacrifice her child. So this is what went on, and it's what is told in the 10 Commandments, by the way. It's not one of the 10, but if you read past where he says that, he tells you he wants you to sacrifice your firstborn children unto him. And this is Baal worship, where they build the fire up under the pit and throw this in there. And what happens is they start playing tambourines and loud horns whenever the baby starts screaming and the parents cry because they don't want to hear it, and they would drown it out. You can look at St. Cuanathon and a few of the old scholars. They talk about this. Here's a good picture right here, but I'm sure it's going to be blurry when I blow it up. But let me just describe this again here. And I'm sorry I have to do this, but this helps me tell you the question. This says Moloch here at the bottom of it, but if you look, that's the exact same thing again. And here we are burning stuff and throwing it in the fire, and they're fixing to drop a baby in there, right? These people are waiting with their next baby, and everybody's just all hanging around. So if the question that I have is, let me pull up one more picture here. It'll give you a good example of who it is. So that's Baal worship. All of this is Baal worship, okay? And it's the Canaanite worship of El, Saturn, Kronos, the god of time and space. You put it together, and they look like this. And it's this bull goat head god. And they're giving up innocent children for it. And so my question to you is, openly and straightforward, I guess now, if there was a time whenever these Hebrew people that supposedly bring all of us our religion that we have nowadays used to think repeatedly in the Bible over and over again, Balaam and all those people, that this was the correct way to worship the creator of the world, if they thought that throwing their children in was the way, and this was their straying away from the other guy and his laws about how you're going to burn in hell, okay? But if they were doing this worship in between and kept straying to this and thought this was God enough to stray away from the other one that's in the Bible, then the question is, what makes you think we ended up with the right book in the first place, or that they had the ability to recognize who was who if they repeatedly go to this guy and do this type of thing and say that it's the answer over the Bible's one? What trust would you have in that these people have any idea whatsoever of what God would even be or what he would even want? Because they totally believe for a long period of time this is what he wants. I openly ask you to try to rationalize that in yourself and then put an answer down here below at the bottom. Like and subscribe if you will. Look at some of my other revealing videos that'll tell you who this is, what El is. You can look it up for yourself, but I've got a couple of vids that'll lead you into it. And you can end up seeing what this Canaanite god did, and you'll actually find who Yahweh is. I'm going to give you a little hinty thing here too. So all these bull guy worships and everything, and that's BS, right? That has nothing to do with it. And God said that had nothing to do with it. Well, They now have found that God is married, had kids and everything. In fact, here's actual clay pots and depictions that have been tried to been hid their whole time that anybody's been doing religion here, that he was married to a wife named Asherah. And their inscriptions, blessed by Uriah and by Yahweh. Blessed to you by Yahweh and his Asherah. Blessings of Yahweh and his Asherah. And who are these? What is this? Well, and there's an inscription here on this. And here's Yahweh. By the way, this is Yahweh and his Asherah. Here's a good question for you. That's Yahweh, and he's a bull god. Look, he's a cow person. There's his cow son. There's his cow wife, Asherah. The inscription here says Yahweh and his Asherah. He's got flies going all around him. He's a cow god of fertility. This is what Yahweh is. Yahweh and his Asherah. There's so many pictures of Yahweh and his Asherah. What's another depiction of Yahweh? There's a guy with a big boner. It's a fertility cult. Wow. That's a cult knowledge people just didn't know. Yahweh and his Asherah. Here's another inscription that had all the animals on it. Yahweh and his Asherah. It's a inscription they find in Kintalet Arjud. This is the god of the Hebrews, huh? He's a cow god thing. Oh wait, what's this? This is one of the early coins they found. It says Yahweh on the side of the coin, and it's actually got the Babylonian stuff going on. This is a good question, people. What is going on? Well, all of those questions I've got videos about, and it helps to answer those things. But again, I ask you, if they actually thought that Baal worship and throwing your kids into a fire was going to make it rain, and the depiction of the guy was like this. So in our modern thought, we would say, that's somebody worshiping Satan. Well, the ancient Hebrews did this for a long period of time. He's El and Saturn. And, the Elohim, Angel, Gabriel, Nathaniel. Bethel is the house of God, where Beth is house, and El is the name of God. Look it up. Look up Yale Exodus and go to about 20 minutes in and watch a Hebrew scholar tell you all about who they worshipped at the time. And the question is, again, if they ever worshipped an entity like this and thought it was correct to throw their babies to it, what the hell makes you think that any book they come with after that someone should listen to? Just an open question. Please give me an answer. Thanks.